This is today's #1 most urgent vulnerability on the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, the show focused on what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal. CISA KEV, first EPSS, and CBSS. Today's issue is CVE 2026-27771 in Gitea. The short version: certain composer package source links may not be protected by sufficient permission checks, and that can expose private or internal package source information. This is not a remote code execution headline, and it is not in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog in the data provided. But it still lands at #1 today because the EPSS percentile is extremely high at 0.9848, and the CVSS score is high at 8.2. If you run Gitea for source control or internal packages, this is a confidentiality problem worth handling quickly. CVE 2026-27771 is described by NVD as affecting Gitea versions up to and including 1.26.1. The issue is insufficient permission checks for composer package source links. In plain English, the application may expose information about where package source code lives, even when that source is meant to be private or internal. The weakness category is CVE-2026-27771, which means missing authorization. Authentication asks, "Who are you?" Authorization asks, "Are you allowed to see this specific thing?" CVE-2026-27771 is what happens when that second question is not enforced strongly enough. For a development platform, that distinction matters. Package source links can point into private repositories, internal systems, or locations that reveal how engineering work is organized. Even if the exposed data is not the source code itself, it can still be sensitive. Verdict: this is a high-priority confidentiality flaw because the path is easy to reach and the potential data exposure is significant. The CVSS vector is 8.2 high, AVN ACL PRN UIN, scope unchanged, confidentiality high, integrity low, and availability none. The two metrics that matter most here are reachability and permissions. Network attack vector with low attack complexity means the issue is considered reachable remotely without unusual preconditions. No privileges required, and no user interaction means the attacker does not need an existing account and does not need to trick a user into clicking something, according to the vector. The impact is mainly confidentiality. The vector marks confidentiality impact as high. Integrity is only low, and availability is none, so this is not primarily about taking the server offline. It is about data exposure. As provided, CVE 2026-27771 is not listed in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. That is important, because CVE is one of the strongest public signals that exploitation is already happening in the wild. But not being in CVE does not mean low urgency. The EPSS percentile is 0.9848, which places this vulnerability very high compared with other vulnerabilities in the EPSS model. EPSS is not a guarantee that your instance is being targeted, and it is not the same thing as confirmed exploitation. It is a prioritization signal. The real-world risk is that private or internal package source information can become reconnaissance material. It may reveal internal naming, repository relationships, package origins, or development infrastructure that defenders did not intend to publish. That kind of information can help an attacker map an environment before choosing the next move. Conceptually, this kind of flaw sits at the boundary between package metadata and access control. Gitea can expose package-related information to users and systems that need it. The vulnerability is that composer package source links may not receive the permission checks they should. So the defensive mental model is simple. If a Gitea instance is reachable over the network, and an attacker can cause the application to return package source link information without being properly authorized, private or internal details may leak. There is no need to discuss exploit steps to understand the exposure. The key point for defenders is reachability. Internet-facing Gitea instances carry more risk because unauthenticated network access is part of the CVSS vector. Internally exposed instances also matter, especially where many users, CI systems, or contractors can reach the service. Start with inventory. Find every Gitea instance you operate, including production, staging, developer sandboxes, and internal instances behind VPN or single sign-on. NVD states that Gitea versions up to and including 1.26.1 are affected, but you should confirm exact applicability against the Gitea advisory and release information for your deployment. Do not assume only internet-facing systems matter. Next, check whether your Gitea instance uses package features related to Composer, and whether private or internal packages exist there. Then review who can reach the instance at the network layer and who is expected to view package metadata. If you rely on reverse proxies, access gateways, or identity providers in front of Gitea, verify they are actually covering the relevant service paths. The question is not just what version is installed. It is whether sensitive package source information could be exposed to someone who should not see it. The primary fix is to follow Gitea's official guidance and move to a fixed release. The references provided include Gitea 1.26.2 release materials and a security advisory, so use the vendor's advisory as the source of truth for upgrade planning, compatibility, and any deployment-specific notes. If you cannot patch immediately, reduce exposure while you schedule the update. Limit network access to Gitea where possible. Put stricter controls around package-related access. Confirm that private repositories and internal packages are not broadly visible. After upgrading, do a permission review, not just a version check. Validate that users without the right authorization cannot view private or internal package source link information. Also, rotate or review any secrets only if your investigation shows they may have been exposed through related metadata or linked locations. For detection, focus on visibility around Gitea access and package metadata. Review Gitea application logs, reverse proxy logs, web access logs, and identity or gateway logs if they sit in front of the service. Normal behavior should be fairly predictable. Known developers, build systems, and package consumers accessing the package information they are authorized to use. Suspicious behavior would include unauthenticated or unexpected clients requesting package-related information, repeated access to private or internal package metadata, unusual spikes in package browsing, or requests coming from networks that do not normally interact with your Gitea instance. Also look for successful responses where you expected denials. Because this is an information exposure issue, detection may not look like malware execution or system crashes. It may look like quiet enumeration. If you identify questionable access, preserve logs before retention windows roll over. To recap, CVE 2026-27771 is today's #1 ranked vulnerability on our list. It is a Gitea authorization issue, tracked as CVE-862, involving insufficient permission checks for Composer package source links. The CVSS score is 8.2 high, driven by network reachability, low complexity, no required privileges, no user interaction, and high confidentiality impact. It is not listed in CISA KEV in the data provided, but its EPSS percentile is 0.9848, which makes it stand out as a patch prioritization item. If you run Gitea, inventory your instances, compare your versions against the vendor advisory, upgrade according to Gitea guidance, and monitor for unusual access to package metadata. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, What to Patch First, ranked by real exploitation signal every day. Subscribe for tomorrow's ranked breakdown and find the full ranked report linked in the description.